We were driving down the road the other day. It was me and my wife and my two children, 6 months old and 8 years old. It was 80 degrees, sunny day. We had the windows down. We were in Massachusetts, and we were heading for a relaxing weekend at the beach. We were talking and laughing and singing and doing all those other things that a family does on a 4-hour drive on a summer afternoon. Well, there were 3 lanes on the highway, and we were going 65 miles an hour when I started to hear a rumbling sound, and the car started to shake. I started to steer toward the apron when one of the back tires blew out, and we started to slide uncontrollably towards the guardrail at really high speed. I steered away from it, which caused the car to start spinning, and we ended up spinning down the highway 3 times around, crossing a couple of different lanes. And I have to tell you, I was just waiting for that moment when another car going 65 miles an hour just smashed into us. If you've been in these situations, you know how many thoughts can go through your head in such a short period of time. I thought one or both of my children could die or be paralyzed, or me or my wife or all of us. The horrifying sounds of my wife and my son shrieking from the back seat will haunt me for a long, long time. I was reminded once again that everything can change in one moment when you least expect it. Everything. Fortunately, we landed safely. We didn't no other cars hit us. We didn't go off the side of the road down into the bank. And when the Massachusetts State Policeman arrived, his eyes turned immediately to the black tire marks that were stretched and swirling a few hundred yards down the highway. And he looked at us and he said, "I'm glad to see you're all in one piece." And we started to cry. We were shaking inside and emotionally as well as physically. Suddenly, nothing mattered very much, except that my family was safe. I didn't care about what time, nothing else mattered at all. And it caused me to reevaluate and reassess my life and my priorities. I thought to myself, if I had died on the road that day, am I in right relationship with the people who I care about the most, including you, the members of this congregation? To understand the extent and the effect of what this was like, it's important for me to kind of go back a little bit before this and tell you about my state of mind prior to the accident. I had just come from a week at our National General Assembly of Unitarians and Universalists. It's quite a scene. Over 4,000 people, Unitarian, Universalists, liberal religious people from all over North America and from around the world gather. And while I was there, I received a lot of appreciation for many of the things that we collectively are doing here in Tulsa. And the way that many of these things that we do are starting to ripple out into the Unitarian Universalist universe out there. The 3 books that we've published through Jenkins Lloyd Jones Press, we've sold thousands of copies, and they're being read by people and implemented by churches all across the country. The video curriculum that we created a few years ago using some of Rocky Stegman's footage as well as Scott Swearingen's talents, called Our American Roots, is being used in about 500 of our congregations nationwide as their introduction to our faith tradition. Replicas of the Simple Gifts painting, which hangs out in our foyer, are hanging in a few hundred congregations. And there's a religious educator that actually has created a curriculum based on the painting, and a number of ministers have developed worship services that utilize and tell the story of that painting. One of the great moments was when my mentor of many, many years back from when I was in seminary, the Reverend John Gibbons, came up to me one day in the hallways, and he said, I have to tell you that I was invited to give a talk to the staff of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. That's the group that goes out all over the world and does social service work in countries all over. And many of them are not members of this faith tradition. So he said, we want you to explain to them what this faith is about. And he said that he brought the painting, a copy of it that he had purchased, and he said he used it to tell the story. And he said he could think of no better way. He said it went great, and he could think of no better way to explain to people who know nothing about what this religious movement of ours is about than to use that painting. And that was a great honor and compliment to me and this church. And then our theme-based ministry, where we take a theme every month and we use it from the Sunday school all the way through the adults and our small groups and our newsletters and things. That's something that we developed, our ministers and staff and a lot of our lay leaders over the past 8 years, and that's starting to be used by a few dozen of our largest, strongest churches that have heard what we're doing. They've watched, some have come out to see us and are developing that in their own churches. We've actually started a website. We got a grant to start a website. Tamara's been working on this. Linda Ford has been working on this to help us to put these themes and the content of how we do this with children in all different ages on the web so that other churches around the country can start to do what we're doing because they're finding it to be helpful and meaningful and effective for them. Now, our Soulful Sundown services that we have on once a month on Friday nights, they're being replicated in a number of different congregations around the nation. And people are actually watching our YouTube and listening to our podcasts of our services online. People came up to me from states all over the country, but also from other countries who were there, who are listening to what we're saying right here in little old Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the feature article in the Unitarian Universalist World magazine, which has a distribution of a few 100,000 people, mostly in North America, but also abroad, their feature article in the fall issue is going to be about the coming together of New Dimensions and All Souls and the way that we've created two styles of worship on Sunday morning. Isn't that cool? One church historian who I respect greatly said to me at one point that what we're doing in Tulsa has the potential to be the most significant moment in Unitarian Universalism since Ralph Waldo Emerson and the Transcendentalists in the 19th century. Wow. So as you can imagine, this is heady stuff to be in this conference, and you can ask others who were there. There were about 10 of us from this church about what it was like and how people came up to them and said, "Oh, you're from that church in Tulsa, and here's what's I hear so many great things, and here's what's going on. Here's what our church is doing." So it's kind of fun to hear about that and the work of our choirs. That's just it's really well known and well regarded. So we are now the largest Unitarian Universalist church in the world, and we're having a formidable impact on the state of free religion, liberal religion, however you want to say it, all the way across the continent. And so I was feeling really good about myself and about this church until my family and I had a brush with death, and my mind was changed. In the midst of all the attention on the national level, there were moments when I must admit that I started having some of what psychologists call delusions of grandeur. Like some other people I know, and I won't point fingers, my ego is susceptible to flights of fancy at times, and there's nothing the ego likes more than to feel like it's in the driver's seat.